Hello everyone! Today's an exciting day because I'm about to sow my first seeds outside for the 2025 garden season. I'm going to go ahead and sow most of my cool season crops, and if you don't know when to start yours, I did mention this app before, but from seed to spoon, that's how I started figuring out the start dates for all the different things that I have in my garden. But the estimate they have for most of these is sometime after March 7th through early April. Now, based on Farmer's Almanac, it's going to be a warmer than average spring, so I'm preparing for that. In the past, I've had issues with cool season crops because our temperatures jumped up too quickly and didn't give them enough time to mature, so I'm hoping they do a little bit better this year, but we shall see. But let me show you what I'm going to get started today. First off, I have 3 packets of radishes. Radishes have the shortest days to maturity of, I think, any plant that I grow. Usually within 30 days, you can go from sowing the seed to eating the radish. So I'm likely gonna do 2 rounds of these. I have 3 seed packets from probably somewhere over the last 3 years. This one's from 2023. They're all open, so I'm just gonna go through and use them all. And then again, start probably a second round in about 2 weeks. I have some carrots here. These are really cute. They're called carrot Parisian, and they are tiny and adorable. I've had, again, some issues with carrots in the past, but hopefully if they're this small, I will have a bit better luck. I also have 3 things of peas. So I have the Royal Snap, which is purple. It's a purple pea pod. I have Park Seed Patio Pride, which is always a tongue twister to say, but those are more compact varieties. And then I think you are the Sweet Sugar Snap. Yep, Super Sugar Snap. So I'll probably also rotate between these 3. So I have all 3 varieties growing. Then I have some greens. So I have cabbage, kale, and lettuce. Now these are all going to go on the front deck, which is over there because my back deck raised beds are all full of bulbs, which again, I'm hoping all bloom this year. So in the back deck, you already saw me clean out the raised beds. I did go through and rake them again because with the root vegetables, you really want the soil to be light and fluffy so the roots can form properly. And so I'm just going to plant them today, and I'm super excited. I need to get all the seeds out there. It's a little windy today, so I have to make sure they don't blow away. I have to get a watering can because my water is not turned on outside yet, but I think this should be a fairly easy process. This is voiceover Bethany now because the wind made the audio quality terrible. But what I did is I went ahead and I laid out the seed packets in the beds that I was planning to plant them in. So this first one here, I'm doing radishes in the front and then cabbage in the back behind it. In this corner bed, I'm going to go ahead and plant my carrots in the front, and then I'm going to do some lettuce behind it. These are my raspberries, which I desperately need to prune. And then this bed is going to be all of my peas like it is every spring and every fall. Now, I actually prefer to water my soil first. I find that that helps to keep the seeds in place once I plant them, but also when I'm making either my holes or my trenches with my finger, it also helps those hold their shape so that the fluffy soil isn't falling apart after I dig the holes. So I'm just gonna dampen about the first inch down of soil, and then I will water them again after I plant them. I'm starting with the cabbage seeds. Now these want to be planted about a 1/4 inch deep, and the spacing is 12 to 15 inches, although I will be shaving off a few of those inches just so I can fit more cabbage into this bed. I like to use my finger to measure, so a little bit below this first knuckle is about 1 inch. So I use my nail for about a 1/2 inch and then a little bit less for a 1/4 inch. Since these want to be spaced a little bit further apart, I am going to do a hole instead of a trench with my finger, again shaving off a few inches in the raised bed, so maybe about 10 inches apart. And I'm going to sow multiple seeds per hole just to increase the chance of germination. If I only plant 1 seed per hole and that one doesn't germinate, I'm not left with any backups. And I always love to have backups in the garden. Next up, we're going to jump into the radishes, which I'm going to plant in the front. Now these I don't know the name of because I ripped the label off of the seed packet, but these don't have to be spaced very far apart at all. So typically for these, I will dig a trench with my finger and then I will thin out, if I remember, my radishes afterwards, but you really do need to thin them out or else they're going to be crowded and the roots aren't going to form. Using my finger, I'm drawing a line about a 1/4 inch deep all along the bed, removing any clumps that I might hit along the way. Instead of worrying about spacing these seeds, this is where I just drop seeds all along this line. So I'm definitely starting more than I need, but when I do thin them, you can save the radish greens to eat. Same thing with beets, same thing with carrots. Always save the leafy greens because those can be used in salads. I'm going to add a second variety of beets. These are the Park's Beauty Blend radishes, and I'm going to put them in a row right behind the first row of radishes that I just sowed. I'm digging my trench and then going ahead and sprinkling the seeds in. Now for these radishes, in general, they have a really short date of maturity, so I will probably have a second round going in a couple weeks. Now we can go ahead and cover all of the seeds back up. And at this point, I'm done with this raised bed. So this is gonna have both cabbages in the back and a couple of varieties of radishes in the front. Moving on to the second raised bed. So here I'm gonna do the carrots, the lettuce, and the kale. I'm doing the same exact thing as I did before, where I'm watering the bed first before I go ahead and plant my seeds. Kale is gonna be the tallest, so I'm starting with that one in the back row. And these seeds wanna be planted a ½ inch deep and 12 inches of spacing, but honestly, I'm probably gonna do like 8 to 10 inches. I'm digging holes with my finger instead of trenches, since they do want to be spaced further apart. Then I'm going to go ahead and add again 2 to 3 seeds per hole, just so I have some backups. We'll do lettuce next, and these are going to be baby greens, so they're not going to be large heads of lettuce. And this one actually says you can just sprinkle the seeds on top of the soil and make sure they are in contact with the soil, and then again, thin once they start to sprout. So no holes or trenches, just spreading the seeds out at about the middle row of this raised bed. And last in this bed are these cute little Parisian carrots. These want to be planted at a depth of 1/4 inch and spaced 3 inches apart. Because these want to be planted closer together, I'm doing the same thing I did with the radishes, making a trench with my finger, and then I will thin them to 3 inches apart. So I'm just going to scatter seeds all along this trench, and then I'll go ahead and cover up all of the seeds that I planted. On to the final raised bed now, at least for my cool season crops. This is my pea bed, and I'm gonna go ahead and water it in. Now I'm just planting seeds in front of the sunflower stalks, so that's the only part that I'm watering. Peas want to be planted deeper than any of the other cool crops that I've sown. These want to be 1 inch deep, which is where I use at the bottom of that first knuckle as a measurement guide. And they only have to be 1 to 2 inches apart. Now, even though these want to be close together, I am going to make holes instead of a trench because I am going to plant all 3 of the different pea varieties that I have. So I'm going to do the first one in the first hole, second one in the second hole, third one in the third hole, and then repeat that all the way down the line. Some of my seed packets for the peas are a little bit older, so I am also putting 3 of the pea seeds per hole. So right now I'm doing 1 hole, skipping the next 2, putting the seeds in the 4th hole, skipping the next 2, and so on and so forth. This is the Royal Snap variety that I'm doing second, and this is the one with the purple pea pods that are really beautiful. They taste the same as the green pea pods, they just look pretty, but also these seeds are also a deep shade of purple instead of the color of the green pea pods. Now I'm adding the 3rd variety in, again skipping to every 3rd hole, and I'm really excited to see how these all grow together. I've combined 2 different varieties before, but never 3, so I'll see 1, how they do together, and 2, if one of them seems to perform a little bit better than the others. Covering up the peas, and this is the last set of seeds that I'm sowing today. Since this is still voiceover Bethany, my mouth is not going to match the words that I say, but I did want to include that I am not refreshing my raised beds yet. I'll usually add compost, perlite, a few other good things, but I have not had great luck with the cool season crops and the weather cooperating, so I don't want to waste any of that on the cool season crops if I don't know that they're actually going to perform. So I will save that for probably early May to refresh the beds for the summer annuals. I will, however, apply a liquid fertilizer once all of these plants start to sprout their first true leaves, and assuming that they continue growing, I will probably apply a liquid fertilizer maybe about once a week since I am using potting mix from last year. But that's everything for my cool season crops. I am going to sow, I think, some poppy seeds, and then also next is starting my gomphrena indoors. So we are really kicking off the garden season now. Sorry about the wind. I hope that this voiceover was still helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.